FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz. And, well, today is the 1st of June. You'll probably be seeing this video, listening to it on the 2nd. We're doing it a little late, but John Rubino's with me. We're watching gold and silver go up. We've had a weekend of unbridled rage and really social unrest across dozens of cities in the country. Wish we could say we were surprised by it, but we're not. We've been calling for it for a long, long time. Here it is finally. And it's happened on and off over the years, but now it's really hit a crescendo, if you will. Like to know what you think, like to get your opinion on it, and hear how you've dealt with the social unrest, if you've had to deal with it, or how you've avoided it. I was eating dinner last night at a restaurant, and I get a warning on my cell phone that I-95 was closed from around West Palm Beach, and didn't know what it was. Later on, I found out it was a peaceful demonstration. There wasn't any violence, but they went and shut down the highway just for the heck of it, which is kind of insane. I-95 is not the kind of road you want to walk in the middle of and expect people to stop. It's hard enough when you're driving down that road to avoid getting in an accident anyways. So just email us, kl@kerrylutz.com, kl@kerrylutz.com. And of course, John Rubino, dollarcollapse.com is with me now. John, we've been doing the show a lot of years now, and everything that's unfolded recently is exactly as you and perhaps me to a lesser extent have expected and have been waiting for. And you got to wonder what's coming next.
Hey, Kerry. Yeah, this is not a happy time. All of a sudden, it's getting worse and worse, and each step that society takes us further into the kind of dark stuff that seemed like was a necessary result of screwing up our finances. It started with finance, where we just borrowed way too much money that made everything harder. And then the pandemic comes along out of the blue, and then these riots. And I think that the riots, and hopefully, by the time this show airs, the riots will be over, I hope. But that has a lot to do with how different lockdown life has been for different groups of people, because the people who are mostly online got through this pretty well. We still have our jobs, and we're still connected to the world. But for large sections of the population out there, everything disappeared when they went on lockdown. Their jobs were out in the world, so they couldn't do their work anymore. They had no income, no way to pay the rent, no way to feed the kids, and they're stuck inside, what is, in a lot of cases, small apartments in cities. And so it's no surprise that everybody's wound pretty tight, and that it's easy to set something like this off. And then, add to it this drumbeat of videos out there of various kinds of police brutality. And, we are a powder keg. And again, hopefully, this ends soon, and we can get back to just talking about the normal financial screw-ups, which are a lot easier to cover than riots where people are being hurt and property is being destroyed. Because this is a stage of it that you hope is brief and that leads to positive changes, but you really never know when stuff like this starts.
Yeah, it can be very difficult to stop an insurrection. I think this qualifies as an insurrection. There's obviously it's organized, it's pre-planned. This thing is orchestrated. all these cities, they didn't just blow up at once. The last time I remember anything like this, and these back then they were really spontaneous riots, was in the 60s, and then the death of Martin Luther King Jr., where you had all these cities literally go up in smoke. But I remember I lived in New Jersey, not too far from Newark, New Jersey, and Newark just erupted because of an eminent domain issue. That was ostensibly what it was for, what it was about. And it turned into something that really took a week till the National Guard came and put it down. And the thing is, with social unrest, if it's allowed to fester and allowed to expand uncontrollably, then it kind of has to burn itself out. The police have like a crucial little window to stop it. Police and the authorities, maybe with the help of the military, the guard, whatever, they've got an opportunity to stop it. But then if they don't, then it just kind of hits critical mass and people riot. And, what happened, inexcusable, police brutality. It's not as widespread, perhaps, as some would like you to believe, but it still does happen. And it's horrible. But this was going to happen no matter what, just like the economy was going to collapse, pandemic or not. We knew that. And social unrest was coming, whether there was a precipitating factor like this murder, or just the idea of people stuck in their homes with nothing to look forward to. Their jobs are gone, hope is gone, and they look and say, "What have I got to lose here?" And they're no longer a stakeholder in society, and then they just go off. But this was going to happen, just like the economic collapse that occurred. And we always said for years that it was going to be far worse than what happened in 08 and 09. We didn't have a lot of social unrest then. We had organized Wall Street, whatever, operation, whatever it was called. And that was kind of the predecessor of some of the groups that are going on now. But really, John, it was we knew this was going to happen. There was no question.
Well, one of the things we can say about this going forward is that the lockdown is over now, because I think a big part of this is people just being stuck inside for 2 straight months. And now the weather is getting warm and humid in a lot of places. And we take air conditioning for granted, but you don't always have good air conditioning in a city apartment. So I think it was already starting where people were just saying that's it. I'm going to the beach. I'm going to a party, whatever. And there was nothing the governors could do about it. And now this just kind of, puts a nail in the coffin of the lockdown, because there's no way that government is going to be able to keep people at home after this or would want to, because when you see what kind of tensions build up in an extended lockdown, you don't ever want to mess with that again. So one possibly hopeful sign is that we'll be able to go back to work now and be able to go out into the world. And then we have to hope that doesn't cause a resurgence of the virus and then this whole thing starts over again. If the early positive signs from openings continue, in other words, where businesses get to restart, people get to go to restaurants and things again, and you don't get a huge spike in new cases of coronavirus, which is kind of sort of how it's working out so far, then maybe we're kind of turning the corner on this whole thing, and we can get back to quote unquote normal life, and then just have a financial crisis to deal with and not all this other stuff. Because one problem is manageable in life normally. But the real trouble comes when you get multiple problems at the same time, because and frequently when that happens, the problems will have mutually exclusive solutions where you can't fix one without making the other one worse, and then your life spirals out of control, and we're close to being on the verge of something like that. So
societal nervous breakdown, if you will. I mean, And I just had on a retired critical care doctor, Dr. Ted Noel, and he said, look, if you're under 60 and you have no comorbidities, you're almost certainly not going to have a problem with COVID-19. He said going outside should never have been banned, like going to parks and beaches and all that, because being outside in the sun, increases your vitamin D, which is proven that people with extremely low levels of vitamin D, like in nursing homes, get this thing. And, if you have the comorbidities, you have to be careful. But being in an apartment in New York City with really bad ventilation is like a death sentence, John, according to him. And so many people have passed away in nursing homes and in these old pre-war apartments, which used to be a real status symbol in New York, but now a pre-war apartment has bad ventilation, bad AC oftentimes, a lot of issues with it. But looking forward, hopefully the social unrest will take its course. It'll be over by the end of the week. But we got so many other problems. You got China and India. They look like they're ready to have a hot war on their border there. They've had 2 or 3 of them before, if I'm not mistaken. And then you got Hong Kong. They've lowered the hammer there. And then potentially Taiwan. They're flexing their muscles, the Chinese. And the question is it going to be stoppable, the direction we're heading in?
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next.
Financial Survival Network is brought to you today by Orin Resources, a junior exploration company with the appetite of a major. It's hot on the trail of the next globally significant discovery, creating enormous potential upside for you, the shareholder. Orin is one of the most aggressive exploration companies pursuing high-grade, scalable gold and copper deposits, and has a premier 7-project portfolio, including its 2 flagships, Committee Bay in the Arctic and Sombrero in Peru. Orin's unparalleled technical team and highly experienced management has a history of success in advancing and monetizing exploration assets. No wonder Orin's been called one of the best in the junior exploration sector. Orin trades on the TSX and the NYSE under AUG. To learn more, go to orinresources.com. That's AURYN resources.com.
The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Yeah, who knows? This does seem like a world gone mad, doesn't it? And again, when you have multiple problems, it's so much harder to get through a situation than if you just have one big problem. And the whole U.S.-China thing is more and more serious as the coronavirus outbreak adds to the stress that was already there because of the trade war, and because China's flexing its military muscles in the South China Sea and elsewhere, and they want to control their neighborhood. And the U.S. wants to be the policeman of the world and control China's neighborhood. And so we were bumping up against each other already when all this other stuff started. So yeah, it's a very dangerous world right now, because a miscalculation in any number of different places right now can lead to something a lot bigger. I got to say, I was a lot more comfortable when it was just a financial issue.
Yeah. I know.
The civil unrest and geopolitics and everything, it makes the world seem very dark and very scary. And the financial thing was an investment thesis. Okay, this stuff is going to happen, and if we play it right, we get rich. And that's actually kind of an optimistic outlook, even though you're exploiting problems, but you're doing it to gain some kind of a big advantage in life. And then there are very few advantages to be had from a lot of the stuff that's going on now. There's no way to spin it in a positive way. So I am really hoping that this stuff is resolved in a short period of time, because we're not done with the potential problems that could happen out there. So more stuff could easily happen. The Eurozone is kind of in disarray right now. And that could be a big financial problem out of nowhere if Germany and the rest of the EU can't see eye to eye on monetary policy, for instance. And Japan is always out there waiting to happen as a financial crisis. So there's a lot of stuff that is still waiting to happen. And you got to hope that they don't happen on top of all the other stuff that's going on right now before we resolve it all.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, it's crazy out there, and whatever control we might have had looks like we're losing it, and you have to wonder where it's going to stop, when it's going to stop. I mean, it's really a bad situation. Hey, gold and silver have been going up. Silver's over $18 an ounce now. Looking at it as we're speaking, it's 1825 bid. Gold is 1738.70, so big deal. But if the whole world is blowing up around you, what good does that do you, right?
Well, I mean, that's really the only bright spot right now is that the precious metals that we've been talking up for such a long time are starting to move in the right direction. And, if this other stuff kind of resolves pretty soon, then okay, we can look at our gold stocks and our stack of coins and everything, and they'll be worth a lot more, and that'll be a good thing. And that's really no small thing. I mean, in a world like this, you want to be able to protect yourself financially, at least, right? Even if the physical side gets harder every day, but you at least want to not be bankrupted by what's happening, and maybe to have the financial freedom to move if you need to help your friends and family if you need to. And gold and silver historically have served that purpose, and they're doing it again. If you've got a lot of precious metals, at least your finances are okay right now. No matter what else is going on, your nest egg is growing. Your ability to manage that side of your life is improving. So the gold and silver thing is working out. And they are proving why they've been around for 3,000 years and have been the thing that people go to whenever there is a crisis in the world, especially a financial crisis, but also geopolitical and political.
Yes, it's very true.
And right now, we've got a lot of reasons historically to be buying precious metals because, name the type of crisis, and we kind of have one, and more coming, it looks like.
Yeah, hey, we're like, we were in the eye of the hurricane for a lot of years, almost 10 years. And then all of a sudden the eye moved, and then we're in the thick of the storm again. And yeah, we just don't have the experience, the life experience that many of our relatives had during the Great Depression to help get through this. And the family was one of the main ways that people got through the Great Depression, family unit, and our families are really in trouble. We don't have the cohesion of the family unit like we once had. And you take all these things into account, and it's really getting tough out there for you to really get through this, but somehow you got to find a way.
Yeah. So what do we do now? Should we still be buying precious metals? Should we still be buying mining stocks? They're all up to an extent. Well, although silver is still extremely cheap historically. Everything else is up more than silver.
Oh, yeah. Silver's got a ways.
Which kind of answers the question what we should be doing. I guess we should be, to the extent that we have more money to move into stuff like this, we should be moving it into silver.
Yeah, you need physical.
It's got the biggest run out there. If gold continues to go up, which it ought to, I think $5,000 to $10,000 gold is a reasonable target this time around, then you got to think silver is going to go up more in percentage terms. And silver mining stocks, of which there are just a handful, if you want to buy silver miners, you've got a list that's maybe 10 names long, and that's it. So you would want to be buying them, the best quality of them, because they will tend to go up even more than silver in this kind of a situation. So, and don't forget dollar cash. You do need some cash for short-term emergencies, but with pretty much everything else, you don't want to be in cash, because now we know how the governments of the world have to respond to all this stuff, right? they have to bail out everybody in sight.
Yes.
Or they had to do that before. And now with the riots and city blocks being burned down, that's going to affect state and local finances in a way that is very negative. And state and local finances were already a mess. They were going to be one of the big bailout candidates going forward. So that just takes us further into that territory where Illinois and New York and Kentucky are going to say, you know what, we're bankrupt unless you bail us out. So in a situation like that, where central governments have no choice but to create a huge amount of new currency and then throw it at a dozen different problems that are in front of them, historically, that's really good for precious metals. So yeah, you do want to be moving whatever capital you have left into things that aren't affected or are affected in a positive way by what governments are doing right now. So, yeah, and then we're heading into a presidential election amid all this stuff, it isn't clear how that's going to go technically. So that's a kind of a crisis where if we just can't figure out how to do an election in this kind of a situation, that just adds to the complexity of everything. So yeah, I don't know. This is overwhelming and it's too dark. So it would be really nice if we settle some of this stuff at least, so we just have a manageable number of problems to deal with. Yeah,
it would be, and maybe there's a solution out there that we haven't thought of yet, but it's getting. This is why you don't put off problems, why you need to solve problems when you first become aware of them, because they don't go away just because you decide to ignore them. Most of them don't. It's like you're having that problem with the car, it's clunking the transmission, and, maybe if you had it fixed now, you wouldn't have to buy a new transmission, but if you wait, it's only going to get worse, and then eventually it'll cost you many thousands of dollars for something that could have been solved relatively cheaply. Well, we all know what that's about. Anyways, we got to let it go for this week, John, but we'll talk about it next week. I'm sure there'll be more. Let's pray that the social unrest quells, that it's stopped, and that we have some semblance of civilization, because it's not going to be a pleasant place to be if there's no civilization, not even the appearance of civilization, if you will, the thin veneer of civilization having worn off. Anyway, go take a look at John's site, sign up for his free newsletter, dollarcollapse.com. We're financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Free newsletter also. John, we will catch up with you next week.
Thanks, Kerry. See ya.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.